All right, so if we continue on, I've got my example 3 here. I've got my equation ready, so step 1 is complete. Now we need to do steps 2 and 3 to graph our line. So step 2 said in your notes, we need to make an XY table. So here is my table with my X and Y labeled on it. Well, where do we get our X's from? Because all they did was give you this equation. Well, if they don't give you your X values, or we call them the domain, if they don't give this to you, then you get to pick the values of X. Now, don't be ridiculous about it. You don't want to get decimals. You don't want to get fractions. You don't want to get huge numbers because these are going to eventually be your points on your line. So you just want to get a couple of numbers that represent what could be going on with your X. So I would definitely pick positive 1. And I would pick positive 2. I want to throw 0 in there. See what happens when X is 0. You'll find out later that's a very important point when X is 0. And you also want to represent your negative values of X. So we're going to go ahead and add negative 1 and negative 2. Now, do you have to have these values? You could have totally picked 3 and 4 and negative 8 and 10 and all that, but this is usually the values of X that I choose when I get to pick them for myself. So once that I have my X values, then it's a plug and chug. I need to substitute this value of X right here to get my Y. Then I'm going to substitute X as number 2, as it equals 2 to get my Y. And then you repeat until you have this entire column filled, and those will be your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So let's try it. When X equals 1, Y equals 2 times 1 plus 2. So this 1 right here is where my X was, okay? And then it's just basic math. Y equals negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. You add your 2. Your Y is 0, so you put 0 right there in your column, okay? Then we go to our next value of X. When X is equal to 2, I plug it in. Y is equal to negative 2 times positive 2 plus 2. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. You add your 2 from here. You add your 2. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. So that goes in my second row. Right? Now, X is now equal to 0. Plug it in. When X is equal to 0, that's negative 2 times 0 plus 2. Well, anything times 0 is 0. So my Y, that whole thing is gone. My Y is just 2. So I'll put my 2 right there. All right, 2 more values of X, 2 more values of Y. When my X is equal to negative 1, so now you got to start being careful because you got a negative 1. You got to remember all your rules when you're multiplying and subtracting and adding negative numbers. When X equals negative 1, Y is equal to negative 2 times that negative 1 plus 2. Well, negative 2 times negative 1, that gives you a positive 2. Add 2. Y equals 4. You plug it in. 1 more value for Y, and we've completed our table. When X equals negative 2, Y equals negative 2 times my X, which happens to be negative 2, plus 2. Well, negative 2 times negative 2 gives me positive 4. I got to add my 2. My Y is equal to 6. You plug it in. So what happens now, ladies and gentlemen, is you completed your table. So now we're ready to do step 3. You're going to take these values. Every one of these is your point. So this is your point 1, 0. This is your point 2, negative 2, 0, 2. These are the 5 points that we're going to plot on our line. So let's go ahead and see if we can do it. You've already got your coordinate plane there. I know it's kind of small, but I was trying to, make up for space. I've got mine right here. We're going to plot our first point. The first point is 1, 0, 1, 0. So that means I go to the right 1 and then I stop because my Y is 0. It doesn't go up and down. So that's my first point. You can see it right there. My second point, 2, negative 2. So I go to the right 2 and down 2. There's my second point. Third point is 0, comma 2. So when my x is 0, I don't go to the left or right, but I do go up 2. So there's my third point. Fourth point, negative 1. So now we're going to the left, positive 4. So there's negative 1, and then I'm going up 4. Negative 1, up 4. Last point on my line, negative 2, positive 6. So I go to the right 2, and let me get a couple more tick marks, up 6. You see my 5 points? You see that they're in a nice straight line? So all we need to do now is connect those points. And there is the graph of your line. I'm going to stop the tape, and we're going to do this again for another example.